3 6 Mafia, DJ Paul experienced success in the 90s and 2000s. Nelly said the 2000s was the hardest hip hop era to go through. With experience in both realms, what does DJ Paul say?
The 2000s was hard. I would say, I would be honest, I would probably say the 90s was, I don't know, that's a good question, man, because the 90s was, probably the 2000s was the hardest. The 90s was kind of like a breeze because, that was when we brought out Tear the Club Up and all of this. And there was really nobody else in our lane in the 90s. So, with all the Project Pat stuff and Gangsta Boo and all that, it was like a breeze. And another thing too is I wasn't really paying that much attention to the charts. I wasn't trying to be on radio because I knew radio wasn't gonna play half of this crap that we was talking about. So I wasn't looking for charts. I wanted gold plaques and platinum plaques, but I got those every album that dropped.
How does this era rank? In terms of
Now this
difficulty.
this era is a hard one. You want to talk about a tough era? That's this one. That's this one, man, because now you got to sell music to people that don't even care about music sometimes. Sometimes they just get on there and just have a word to say about something just because they got the power to say it. Well, I don't like this song. Have you even heard it? Nope. I don't like the artwork. Not that I experienced that because I got some loyal fans and loyal followers. But I just see some of the stuff that some of these kids say, man. The social media made it harder because you got to you judge by a million people. So just look at it like this: if you go into court, if you go into trial on something, and you got a jury of 12, instead of you go to court and you get a billion people that's on social media on the screens judging what the rest of your life gonna look like. I do understand what he's saying about about the 2000s because we did have a chance to make our first number one album in 2000, and we went number two because Eminem went number one. And if you're gonna lose to anybody, Eminem would be great. Now, if I had lost to Weird Al Yankovic, then I would have had to have a conversation with somebody. But shout out to Weird Al Yankovic. I actually saw him at the Grammys, but I lost to Eminem. And like I said, it wasn't hard on us because we was just in such a lane that nobody else was doing at that time. We didn't have no competition until the Lil Johns came along. My boy Lil Jon, later on and all that. But other than that, we were just doing something that a lot of people weren't doing. Master P was crunk and all that, and Cash Money and all that, but they had different subjects than we did. They had some drum patterns similar to us here and there, but they was totally different. One thing that did make it harder in the 2000s is in the 90s, if you bought a magazine ad and like Source or XXL for like $5,000-$6,000 per page, if you bought that in the 90s, you for sure went gold or platinum. Master P did it. We did. If you had good music, obviously you had to have good music too.
Did the album ratings in those magazines ever affect the sales, do you think? Because that was a big part of the conversation.
If you were smart, then it wasn't. Because if you were smart, it was just ran by a bunch of New York dudes that didn't even like music outside New York. So, no disrespect to them. I love New York. I love New York artists. It ain't about New York artists, but like a lot of those writers, they just like if it didn't come out of New York, they didn't like it a lot of times.
I remember they gave When the Smoke Clears 3 mics.
That album probably did more and still doing more than a lot of albums they gave 5 mics there. I would do anything to go back to the days where you just bought a magazine ad for $5,000-$6,000 and you call it a day, and everybody saw it. I would love to do that. I would even, if they would bring those days back, I would pay for it for other artists to do it. Just be like, oh man, it's not fair. I don't have $6,000. Man, here you go, $6,000. Run your ad. You run an ad, I run an ad, and these people just go battle one that sound the best.